So I switched back to Windows. And I know how that sounds, especially coming from someone who spent a ridiculous amount of time using Linux, customizing it, messing with Hyprland, configs, dotfiles, basically everything. And the funny thing is, I didn't switch because Linux was bad. I didn't have some catastrophic update that destroyed my system. And I suddenly didn't decide Windows was technically better. I actually still really love and like Linux. The reason I switched is a lot simpler. So I realized I wasn't really using my PC anymore. I was just constantly configuring it. Alright, story time. When I first got into Linux, it was somewhere around 2012, 11, 12, somewhere around that. Customization was probably one of my favorite things about it. I loved the fact that I could customize every aspect of my system. So, for example, in the recent times, you install something like Hyperland, and suddenly everything is yours to change. The bar, the launcher, animations, keybinds, terminal, shell, notifications, and whatnot. Even stupid little things that nobody other than you will ever notice. And initially, that's incredibly fun. You start with a basic setup and think, okay, I'll just customize this a little bit and then, let it go on. And then somehow it's 2 a.m. and you're changing the transparency of your terminal by like what, 5%. Then you see somebody else's setup on Unix spawn on Reddit like GitHub or somewhere, and now you want that feature. So you add it again, and then again something breaks. So you spend another hour fixing that issue. While fixing it, you basically discover some other tool that you like. Now you want to replace something else with that tool. And eventually, you've actually forgotten what you originally opened the computer to do. That became a cycle for me. I'd get my setup exactly how I wanted it, and then the next morning I'd find something else to change. There was never really a finished version. So I recently switched to NixOS kind of around 5 to 6 months ago, and it kind of made this issue much better and much worse for me because now it wasn't just my desktop that I was obsessed over. My entire system became something I could configure. And don't get me wrong, that's one of the coolest things about NixOS. Having your system defined through configuration files, being able to reproduce your setup, roll things back, keeping your configs on Git, it's genuinely amazing. But if you are the kind of person who likes tinkering, it can become dangerous because there is always something you can improve, always something you can clean up, always another package that you could replace, another module you could reorganize, another part of your config that could be more elegant. At some point, I had to ask myself, what am I actually getting out of this? And I think that's the biggest realization I had. Linux wasn't just the operating system on my computer anymore. The operating system itself had become the hobby. I'd usually turn on my PC and instead of immediately playing something, working on a project, watching something, or chatting with my friends, I'd open a terminal, I'd check my configs, I'll go through GitHub, I'd find something cool somebody had done with their desktop and I tried to replicate it. So there is nothing absolutely wrong with that, by the way. If customizing Linux is your hobby, that's completely valid. It's fun and you actually learn a lot. And personally, I've learned a ridiculous amount about Linux because of it. But eventually, I realized that it wasn't what I wanted from my PC. I wanted my PC to be the machine where I could sit down and just do stuff. I did not want to think about the operating system, and ironically, I think that's one of the biggest compliments I can give Windows in this situation. Right now, I barely think about Windows. I turn the computer on, I open whatever I want, and I use it. It's pretty boring. And right now, I actually like that. Okay, now let's get to the biggest practical reason I switched, which you're kind of literally watching it right now, Valorant. Or more specifically, games with anti cheats. Gaming on Linux has gotten ridiculously good. Steam and Proton have completely changed what gaming on Linux looks like. There are a ton of Windows games that you can install on Linux now, hit play, and they just work out of the box. Sometimes You wouldn't even know you're running the Windows version of the game through a compatibility layer. But there is still one massive problem, which is anti-cheat, especially games like Valorant. Valorant is like one of those games where Linux basically is not an option anymore. I mean, it never was. And normally I could just say whatever, I'll play something else. Except my friends play mostly Valorant. And that's where this stopped being a technical decision for me. Imagine you're sitting on your PC, you're doing whatever you're doing, your friends get into Discord and someone says, get on Valo. And your answer is, I can't, I'm on Linux. The first few times, whatever. But eventually I started thinking, why am I doing this? I have a gaming PC, I have the hardware, I own the games, my friends are online, I have free time, and the thing that is stopping me from playing with them is my choice of operating system. And yeah, there are solutions. I could dual boot, I could keep Windows on another SSD, I could reboot every time somebody wants to play Valorant. There are ways around it. But I don't want my computer to require a workaround just so I can hang out with my friends. Because ultimately, to me, that's worth more than what operating system I'm running. I'm not choosing Windows because I think Windows is better than Linux. I'm choosing Windows because for what I'm doing with this particular PC, Windows gets out of the way. So my friend is a Valo, I open Valorant. That's it. I think when you spend enough time in Linux communities, it's very easy to start treating your operating system like part of your identity. You're an Arch user, you're a NixOS user, you're a Windows user, you're a Hyprland user, whatever. And then eventually you start defending your choice or trying to make absolutely everything work within that choice. I definitely fell into that a little bit, only a teeny tiny little bit. But an operating system is ultimately a tool. That's it. And the best tool depends on what you're trying to do. For some things, I genuinely prefer Linux. For my development work and my actual work, my personal home labbing, everything, I genuinely prefer Linux itself. Linux is incredible, and I haven't suddenly stopped liking any of that. But my main PC is not just a development machine. It's also where I play games. It's where I'm on Discord. It's where I hang out with my friends. And if the operating system I choose makes one of these things significantly harder, then maybe it's the wrong operating system for that machine. So, I actually still miss Linux. There are so many things that I miss. I miss having the level of control over my desktop. I miss the terminal environment. I miss how a clean, properly configured Linux setup can feel. And there's something extremely satisfying about having a system that you've built exactly for yourself. Windows doesn't definitely give me that same feeling. There are things about Windows that annoy me. There are things Linux does much better. I'm not going to sit here and pretend Windows suddenly became perfect operating system just because I installed it. It didn't. But here's the difference. Those annoyances are not stopping me from doing what I actually want to do. And that's the trade I'm willing to make. And also, I want to make this very clear. This is not I used Linux, it sucked, so I went back to Windows kind of thing. Not even close. Using Linux taught me a lot. Using NixOS taught me even more. And I'll absolutely continue using Linux. I just don't think I need Linux on every computer I own to prove that I like Linux. I can use Linux where it makes sense. I can use Windows where Windows makes sense. And right now, on my personal rig, Windows makes sense to me. Maybe at some point in the future, the anti-cheat situation changes. Maybe Valorant will eventually work on Linux. Maybe my priorities change again. And knowing myself, there's a decent chance I'll get the urge to install Linux again at some point. But for now, I'm actually enjoying not thinking about my operating system. So, if I had to summarize this entire video, I did not leave Linux because Linux failed me. I switched because I realized I was spending more time perfecting my computer than actually enjoying it. And when it came to gaming, I realized that something even more important is that if my friends are sitting in Discord and everyone's getting on Valorant, We have a couple of hours when we are all free, and I'm just sitting there saying, sorry guys, my operating system can't run it. What exactly am I gaining? I love Linux, I love customization, I love messing around with my primary OS, which used to be NixOS before. But none of that is more important to me than spending time with my friends. The operating system I use, it is supposed to help me do the things I want to do. It's not supposed to become the thing I'm doing. So yeah, I'm back on Windows. I'm back to playing Valorant. I'm spending less time messing with my desktop, and surprisingly, I'm completely okay with that. I'm still using Linux though on my personal laptop or personal slash work laptop, and yeah, I do miss using it on my primary PC, but I need to make some trade offs based off of my priorities, and I'm completely okay with that. Actually, knowing me personally for the past 25 years, I probably will reinstall my NixOS setup on my main PC again. But that's a problem for future me to handle. For now, I'm just gonna play the game and be productive.